Surfboards out as we continue to ride the very emotional waves that came in at the end of last cycle. Heightened desire and the tendency to say yes to any experience could really pull you off track and into something abysmal, or help you to get clear on what to commit your energy to. All part of this cycle of the human design weather for February 12th to 18th, 2025. Hello, hello. I'm Margot Fraser, your guide through the cosmic energetic weather. As a certified human design professional and intuitive coach, I'm on a mission to help you live, love, and know the magic of your true nature. In this podcast, Human Design Weather or Not, we'll explore the conditioning influences of the planetary motions, the transit field. You can't avoid the conditioning pressures. You'll likely notice their effects playing out around you. But rather than you reacting and being pulled off track, this awareness will empower you to navigate the cycles, staying true to your authentic nature, and take advantage of the opportunities when correct for you. Let's get started. This cycle begins February 12th at 4:22 p.m. and it goes until February 18th at 6:05 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. Universal time coordinates, that's February 12th at 11:22 p.m. until February 18th at 1:05 p.m. So remember to convert that to your own time zone so you know when it starts and ends for you. We always start with the sun earth activations because that's 70% of the conditioning field. We have the sun moving into gate 30, activating the trait of recognition of feelings and desire in the solar plexus center, which is the emotional center. The emotional center is a motor that brings the emotional wave. We know emotions go up and down, hope to pain, joy to sorrow. And it's also an awareness center, our emotional awareness. This trait is part of the collective abstract circuitry that's about sharing lessons and the wisdom of our experiences. The keynote for this trait says, freedom recognized as an illusion and limitation accepted as fate. Now, that might seem a little off-putting, but here's what it's speaking to. You are a unique individual. You are incomparable. But this is the gate of desire. And a lot of the time in our not self, we are comparing. We're comparing to others, right? I want to look like him or her. I want to be like them. We're looking outside of ourselves. But you have your own traits that are truly part of you. This whole thing about, you can be anything you want, anything you desire. That's the illusion. There's no true freedom in being who you're not. Yes, your specific design has certain limitations, and it's perfect. You are here to be you. So we all are individual pieces of the whole, the totality. And in that, we all have our place, which means our limitation to just be who you are is beautiful. As Ross said, this is a grace, not a punishment. So the opportunity here is to narrow down your desires for something new, a new experience, a new feeling, to the one you really want to have. The caution is no expectations. That leads to disappointment. And honestly, this is probably the most difficult gate, the most difficult trait to be able to put aside expectations. So do your best with that. The earth has moved into gate 29, the trait of saying yes. It can be the trait of saying no. It's also called the abysmal. And it's in the sacral center, the second square from the bottom. It's a motor that generates life force energy. The deep within the deep. Persistence despite difficulties has its inevitable reward. That's the keynote for this trait. So saying yes to life, well, within that, you are saying yes to the difficulties that come with it. It though has its inevitable rewards. They will come eventually, but as we go through experiences, we do bump out up against things. There are difficulties along the way. The sacral center is the energy to do work that's satisfying. So when you enter into something correctly, according to your strategy and authority, you will have the energy to persist through those difficulties, through the ups and downs in the experience, to be able to surrender to the experience for whatever it brings. And that's really the opportunity that comes with this trait, to learn that when you commit to something that's correct for you and just surrender to it, there is a depth that you get to access in just being in the experience for the experience. It's not about the outcome. This can also bring the energy to say no to something that's not correct for you. So the caution here is that this is a cycle to really watch what you're committing your energy to. If you're not using your strategy and authority, this pressure could have you saying yes and committing to things and people that aren't aligned for you, leaving you frustrated and exhausted, being overcommitted. If you have this gate in your design, I'm sure you can look back in your life and see this tendency to overcommit. Yes, I'll do that. Oh, yeah, sure. I can look after that. All right. Well, when we look at the sun earth activations together, you may find yourself committing to experience your greatest desire. Or you may find yourself committing your energy to a fantasy that's not aligned. You could say no to something that's not aligned to your desires. Healthy boundaries. Or you can say no to something that is aligned, but your not self mind is creating fear around what would happen if you said yes. These are all possibilities out of this pressure. We have one medium term and one long term channel that are impacting all of us this cycle. These both came in at the end of last cycle and are continuing through this cycle, one of them even beyond. When the transit field creates a channel, everyone that doesn't already have it in their chart is receiving the activation of the related traits and qualities. Let's look at our medium term channel first. This is coming in on February 11th at 4:19 a.m. and going until February 18th at 6:05 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. UTC, that's February 11th at 11:19 a.m., going until February 18th at 1:35 p.m., which is the end of this cycle. This is the channel of recognition of feelings, a design of focused energy, where gate 41, the trait of contraction, meets gate 30, the trait of desire. It's part of the abstract experiential circuitry. Gate 41 is correlated to the start codon in our genetics. We only have one start codon, and brings the pressure to enter into a new experience. At the beginning, though, it starts with fantasizing, right? Fantasizing about all the potentials for a new feeling experience. And this is the process as you move through this channel of paring down to that one true desire that you'd like to have next. What is that experience, that feeling that you want to have? And becoming very, very focused on that one feeling. It's emotional. So patience is required in this process through the ups and downs of the emotional wave. The opportunity is to get clarity on what that desire is for you. What are you really yearning for? The caution here is that there can be expectations, as we talked about already, and there can only be one experience at a time. If you scatter yourself, you don't get the depth of the experience. If the mind jumps in and doesn't want to let go of other desires and just focus on the one, you'll also never get the depth and the fullness of the experience that's really correct for you. And therefore, the depth of the wisdom and the lessons that are there for you. And it's more likely that you'll burn yourself out, burning the candle at both ends, so to speak. Now, our long-term channel is in the same stream as our medium-term channel. It's coming in, or it came in on February 11th at 4:47 p.m. It's going until April 7th at 2:26 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. UTC, that's February 11th at 11:47, going until April 7th at 8:26 a.m. This creates the channel of transitoriness, the design of a jack of all trades. The rule of thumb: never repeat an experience, move from one experience to another. When you complete one, you don't go back and ever do that again, which is why it's called the channel of transitoriness. On to the next one. Remember from earlier, the emotional center is a motor and an awareness center, our emotional awareness. So just following this full circuit, starting with gate 41, that's bringing that fuel, that pressure to enter into the experience, starting with fantasizing. And it's just innocent fantasy at this point. It is important to distinguish what's fantasy from what can really be brought into fruition. It's a trait that says, I'm hungry, and it's speculating on what it's hungry for. At gate 30, now narrowing down to that one desire. This is what I'm hungry for. At gate 36, as we move up this stream, this is where the rubber meets the road. This is really entering into that experience. There can be a lot of nervousness, a lot of excitement that can go along with this. There is a fear of inadequacy that this trait can bring as well. Am I really up to going through with this experience? No, I'm a novice. I don't feel like I really have what it takes to go through this. Potentially could be there. And then here I go. Here I go. I'm going to eat now. And then we move up to gate 35, the end of the process, the gate of progress and change. This is where you did it. You've gone through the experience. Whatever change that brought to your life, you can articulate the experience, talk about the change, the progress that's occurred as a result. And so now it's the I'm full. Here, I'm full. I've had the experience. And since it doesn't want to repeat the same experience, there can be the voice of I'm bored here. So as long as this transit's in place, we can see both of those things play out. Time for a change, or I'm bored. Just bring me something new. So we see that we're really going to be under the pressure for change, for a new experience. The root center, activated for everyone, is bringing its drive. The emotional center, activated for everyone's bringing its ups and downs, this desire, this yearning. The crisis of gate 36. Can I really do it or not? And then the throat center being activated for everyone wanting to manifest that change, and also talking about the progress or the lack of progress. There'll be a lot of talk about expectations and expectations not being met, and disappointments as a result of that. So keep in mind that if you look at your chart and see any of those centers colored in white, meaning that they're undefined from a human design perspective, you're going to be taking in and amplifying these pressures. So, as an example, myself, I do not have the root center defined. When this comes in, there's going to be a real pressure like, come on, go, 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 go. Just because the pressure is there doesn't mean I do anything about it. Okay. The exception is if my strategy and authority says, yes, under this pressure, it's time to go now. All right. For the emotional center, 50% of you have it defined, 50% of you have it undefined. Those of you that have it undefined, when this energy comes in, it gets amplified about 200%. So, again, just take a breath. No emotional decision making. If it is correct for you, these frequencies will help you move through the experience and bring confidence that you actually can do it. We have two channels that are being created by the transit of the moon. These are just little tasters, little samples, because the moon only stays in a gate for about 10 to 11 hours, give or take. So it doesn't have a huge impact on the weather, but it's there. So we'll do a quick review of these. And guess what? We have another emotional channel. See a theme that's developing for this particular cycle? Whew, okay, February 12th at 6:22 p.m. until February 13th at 5:09 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. Universal time coordinates, that's February 12th at 1:22 p.m. until February 13th at 12:09 p.m. We have the channel of mating, a design focused on reproduction, with the moon moving into gate 59, the trait of sexuality in the sacral center, and connecting with its electromagnetic, gate 6, the trait of conflict and friction in the emotional solar plexus center, being activated by the south node of the moon. This is part of the tribal circuitry, and there's always an underlying theme of mutual support with any tribal activation. So this channel is going to bring the pressure to reproduce, literally and metaphorically, or not. It creates a frequency that's very penetrating and can open you to intimacy. It can close you to intimacy. It's an aura that penetrates the aura of others, which can be a little bit uncomfortable. So you may find that, oh, I'm feeling more open or more closed to those one-on-one relationships. There's an opportunity for creative fertility that can come with this. The caution here is the connection to the emotional center really means that it takes time to establish intimacy with another, whether that's at the level of a mate, a friend, a business partner. You've got to wait out those waves. Is this person okay with me? And am I okay with them through the ups and downs of my emotional wave? In any relationship, there is going to be conflict and friction. It can bring growth and evolution as you work through it. Or if you're unable to work through it, the relationship's probably going to devolve. Next up, February 15th at 1:15 a.m. until 12:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. UTC, that's February 15th at 8:15 p.m. until 7:30 p.m. We have the channel of discovery, a design of succeeding where others fail, or failing where others succeed, with the moon moving into gate 46, the trait of determination of the self and love of the body vessel in the G center. The G center is about love, identity, and direction in life, connecting with its electromagnetic. Gate 29, that trait of saying yes, the Earth's position that we've already talked about in the sacral center. Part of the experiential circuitry again. This channel brings that pressure to commit to an experience of life, to say yes or no. There's an opportunity to go deep into the discovery in a way that brings persistence through those ups and downs and brings you more deeply into yourself, your individuality. The caution here is saying yes to something out of this pressure and not out of your own strategy and authority means you could end up in an experience and committed to something that's hard to get out of. And if it's misaligned for you, it's going to be abysmal. This brings us to our long term transits. The long-term transits are created by the outer planets and the nodes, and they're with us for a longer period of time, years in some cases. So your not self side could start to think that they're actually part of you, even when it's something that's not in your own design. Now, the main story here is the level of emotionality through this cycle that again, we moved into at the end of last cycle, and the tremendous pressure to move into a new experience or potentially to bring something to completion that you're already in. We've got the Sun Earth in the abstract circuitry, the north node of the moon, Jupiter, Pluto. And to add to it, Mercury's in the same position as the sun, gate 30, the trait of desire. Mars is in the experiential gate of beginnings in the root center. So I've said it before earlier, I'm going to say it again. Really try not to have any expectations of whatever the experience that you're in is going to bring, and one experience at a time. But it is going to be really difficult to keep expectations at bay in this energy. So, really bring awareness to that this cycle. There are 4 activations in the emotional center. And with the emotional center being activated for everyone, yeah, huge pressure to satisfy that hunger for a new experience. Or feeling very frustrated and bitter, maybe angry that there's nothing new under the sun, or this is not the experience that I signed up for. Very, very emotional. So, not making emotional decisions, patience, patience, very key through all of this emotionality. Not only is everyone getting the emotional center activated that doesn't have it already, but also the root center with its adrenalized drive. And both activations here are experiential. So pressure to begin, to start something new being amplified. Look at your own chart. If that root center is undefined, it's colored white, this pressure is going to be amplified for you and could have you like running around. And again, we have the throat center activated for everyone. That experiential circuitry with the voice of, oh, I feel like a change. I'm bored. We need a change here. Things need to change. The root and the emotional center energy driving up to the throat through those channels is going to bring expressions of what's happening through that experience. Talking about progress, about change, all the expectations of the not self, those disappointments at things not working out the way one hoped for from those expectations. It's emotional. Now, there can be joy here as well. There can be anger here. Lots of blurting out. And with all that energy driving to the throat, potentially volatile action could erupt out of this. You're going to see people make emotional decisions around you. Don't be one of them. People are going to be acting out emotionally under this pressure. So do your best to keep a cool head. I know there's a lot going on in the world right now. Try not to get caught up in the emotionality. Bring your energy down. What's really correct for you to engage in or not? We have gate 23, Uranus position, the trait of assimilation in the throat, bringing a potential unique expression that could shift perspectives. Or there's also fear of rejection here, fearing that, people out there are not going to like my perspective, are not going to like my unique point of view. And Uranus could bring these expressions out that could be very distracting and that take you off track. So someone else bringing through something that kind of hits you, and it's like, oh, you get pulled off track from what's really correct for you. We have Saturn sitting in gate 22 in the emotional center, the trait of grace or disgrace. So, are we going to be able to bring that grace to this emotionality, to really listen to each other, to work through the conflicts and frictions of gate 6, work through them gracefully and allow growth? Or are we going to be really impolite, disgraceful, cutting people down, creating conflicts and frictions that can be more volatile and that devolve in a very disgraceful way? All of this is up in this particular cycle. Could be very confrontational. Can you stay grounded and attuned to your own strategy and authority rather than getting caught up in the homogenized waves the transit field is bringing? Okay. Well, that brings us to the end of this cosmic weather for this cycle. If you want to run your own chart, you can go to jovianarchive.com. And if you're new to human design and you just want to understand some of the basics of the body graph at a high level, what's the red and the black about, the different geometric shapes, maybe a little bit of background on the system, you can pick up my free Human Design Basics mini course at margotgfraser.com/human hyphen design. You'll also find various opportunities for readings there if you're looking to understand your design and go deeper into it. If you enjoyed this podcast, I would be so grateful if you could give this episode a like and perhaps subscribe to the podcast. Okay, so keep those surfboards out to ride those emotional waves. Let your strategy and authority really guide you to what experiences, if any, are really correct for you right now, or what that next step is for you. When it is correct, these frequencies are going to support you in narrowing down to what that next experience you really want to have is, and understanding what's just fantasy and could be let go of, and then moving through any nervousness and stepping into it to manifesting your experience. If it's not correct, it could be as abysmal. So take care that what you desire doesn't have you commit to an incorrect experience. All right. Have a fantastic cycle, and may you know, live, and love the magic of your true nature. Until next time, bye for now.